Hello and welcome back to my channel, and we continue with our classic solo traveler campaign. We have gone through quite a series of steps with character generation, world generation, setting the scene with the starport and the Dragon Hotel, which is one of the central concepts of this campaign. I think we're almost reaching what would be classified as the business end of proceedings. We're just about ready to start the campaign. I do have a kind of like a fleshed out a kind of way of breaking us in, getting the characters up and running, establishing just why they're there, what they're doing, and almost like having a bit of a little mini game to kick us off, just to get, kick the tires on the characters, and maybe some of the interactive mechanics that we've got, based on some of the pure traveler, classic traveler tables, and a few of my little tweaks and amendments that I like to do. And I might even be drawing in some of the Mongoose edition. I just can't resist some of the stuff that's in this is terrific. And it really is very much in the spirit of the classic traveler game. And I thought, well, why not just use what some good bits from that. Waste not, want not. So I have a bit of an outline that I want to talk about first, just to kind of set the scene on where we're going with this. And basically I've got 3 steps that I'm probably going to cover today, and then we'll move on to the 4th step thereafter, or see how we progress. And the first one is I want to just go through and establish the reasons for the character party forming in the first place. And I have a few kind of, I think I alluded to this in some previous episodes, that I had some random tables and just a kind of like different options that we could consider why the party would have got together. And it's not maybe specifically about this particular party, but it's just about, this would get any campaign started, try to establish, why are these people on this world? Why are they together? What do they have in common? Why would they form some form of alliance? So hopefully I can highlight what that's all about. And then probably something I'm going to skirt over quite quickly at this stage is just a recap on their starting equipment and resources. And I'll just touch on my ideas about that. I don't really have anything specific to say on that, apart from just a few things about, just what they're going to have access to at the start. And ordinarily I would do like a little inventory of what their starting resources are. I can probably do that more or less offline, and present just my general ideas, and then say, well, this is what I've decided for the characters. Going on shopping trips and whatever, it's not really kind of entertaining viewing. And also, I just want to maybe just try and have a bit of a ponder about what type of equipment they're going to need, and maybe have already purchased in their travels. And then I have this little segment which I called Setup in the Dragon Hotel. And this is my little mini game that I get the characters up and running, and basically starting to interact with the world, and the universe, the Traveller universe. And I have some nice little rules that I have developed. Well, I think they're nice. They're just allow the characters to gently ease into the universe. We get to see the Dragon Hotel in action, see some of its staff, get a feel for it. Feel like we are in the lobby. in the Worms Tail bar. We're talking to the bartender. Um, there's the soft cocktail jazz fusion music going on in the background. It's all very, very nice. So hopefully I can generate a bit of that kind of atmosphere, and we can really feel ourselves immersed into a pleasant evening in the Dragon Hotel. Okay, so let's crack on. And the first item I have on the agenda are the reasons for the character party forming in the first place. It's an important question. You'd have this in any role playing game. Why are these characters together? Why are they working together? Do they have similar objectives? Have they got a plan? Have they just been thrown together by chance or fate or something? I've got some similar kind of some similar ideas here, just to kind of almost like generate a bit of randomness into this and a bit of excitement and flavor. So let's get into the meat of it. So the rationale behind the characters forming a group to adventure is determined using the following tables. First of all, provide a brief resume of each character with some observations as to their motivations and outlook. Now, what I did was I took the character sheets of the characters, which I had drawn up. Here. So this on IS form, Imperial Standard Form 1, personal data. So this is the printout that you would get as an individual. And I had Saria Jonand, Bastian Benez, Fiora Hezel, and Kira Gaines. So I have got my 4 characters. And what I'd done is I'd basically written up in a bit more of a narrative style just some of my observations, just so that I can get much more of a kind of feel for this person. Some of their character traits, some of their aspirations, some of their objectives, and potentially some of their issues and things that might rub up the wrong way with other characters, or might be the reason why other characters are attracted to them. So let's kick off with our first character, the one Saria Jonand, the female. Her age is 26, giving her some life experience, but still relatively young. Her service, she was in the merchants, had a respectable rank of 4th officer. This indicates some level of responsibility and competence in trade and ship operations. Her personality, we established, was independent, sometimes viewed as insubordination, but generally a positive attribute in her service history. So on the whole, it was a positive. Her homeworld, the rich world of Piraeus, with a background of privilege and access to resources or connections. This is now an interesting contrast with her current situation, where I suppose she could be classified as rather down and out, with her discharge early in her career. Her service history, she had some issues, the addiction issues with the narcotics. These were resolved, but could still be a potential vulnerability. Her discharge was due to an economic downturn, and has meant she has a slight resentment with the service. So she's harboring not maybe a grudge, but just a bit of disappointment that the service has maybe let her down a bit. She had a bit of a career ahead of her, and she feels a wee bit shortchanged by the whole process. Her skills of bribery, electronics administration, and mechanical, these offer a diverse skill set that could be valuable in various situations, from negotiating deals to repairing equipment. And particularly her bribery, which is a rather clandestine type of skill. We can maybe think of a few instances in a Traveller game where that might come in useful. So that's Saria. And as I say, I just wanted to give them a wee bit of almost like a story, rather than just having some, if when you look at this, these are just hard numbers. They do tell a lot, with the service history and stuff, addiction issues, economic downturn. But it's quite nice to get a bit of narrative around it, like a little story, just a quick resume. And yeah, I would recommend if you're doing your own sort of game, just do this type of thing, because I felt that the characters, as I was writing this, the characters were starting to come alive a wee bit in my head, because you were taking into account what the personality was like, where they came from, just what they've done, and just what they've achieved, and you get this kind of overall complete picture. You know, bar. And I'm not going to do this thing where you have pictures of people and whatever. I'm just going to say, imagine what Saria looks like in your mind. Just have it in your head. I'm not going to say, I'm going to show you a picture of some lady, a 26-year-old lady, and say this is Saria. I'm just going to say, look, you just imagine what, because that's what it would have been back in 1979, 77, 79. You would have just had to imagine it in your head. I suppose you could take it out of a magazine or something and whatever, but maybe you would think of like a one of your pop idols or something like that. She looks like Susie and the Banshees. That's probably going to be more Kira. It's going to look like that. But yeah, you get the gist. I'm not going to provide a kind of visual thing. It's going to be all more descriptive and use the theatre of the mind. I've heard it described as that many times. Moving on, we have Bastien Benez. He's the only male in the party. He's age 26, a similar age range as Saria. His service was the army, where he achieved the rank of captain. This indicates leadership experience and a disciplined mindset. His personality, he's cautious. He's more reserved and maybe has a strategic approach to situations. His homeworld, as we established, was Bifrost, which was a cold desert planet where atomics may have been used. We weren't entirely sure, which maybe indicates a harsh origin. This has shaped his worldview and resilience. So he's quite tough, and he's been brought up to be quite tough. His service history, he's seeing action under fire, immediately establishes him as someone who has faced danger. The war declaration during his service and subsequent discharge due to the army cutbacks while on backwater garrison duty provides a narrative of both intense experience and a somewhat anticlimactic end to his military career. So he was almost like marched up to the top of the hill and then marched all the way back down again. He did have quite an illustrious service record in terms of heroic action and individual displays of bravery. But the army hit a bit of a a cutback phase where the accountants came in and said, "Yeah, we're just gonna have to cut all these backwater services that you've got, all these garrisons. They're just costing us too much. Let's focus on the front line where we can get more bang for our buck as the Imperium." And he was one of the casualties of that. His skills, he's got a strong set of combat and practical skills, which are fitting for a military background. The inclusion of computer and medical skills adds some versatility. So he's quite a good on the I suppose the offensive kind of skills, but he's also got a bit of strength in, as I say, computer and medical, just in the background. Now we move on to now. In my head, I've probably got Fiora Hezel, female, as our leader, because she's age 34, making her the most experienced member alongside Kira, who we'll come to. Her service, the army, achieving the significant rank of colonel. This implies strong leadership abilities, strategic thinking, and extensive experience within a military structure. So she knows her way around big. She's handled a battalion. She can deal with lots of personnel. She's got that kind of ability. So she's a lot of life skill there. Personality, she's honest and truthful, a straightforward and reliable character, which could contrast with Saria's potential for bribery or Bastien's caution. So there might be a bit of friction going on there. The fact that Saria has been on the rather dark side of her merchant career. And Bastian is a bit cautious, and she might be saying, "Come on, you're going to have to show a bit more backbone." And although he has a very, very illustrious war record, and maybe he would say, well, the fact that I've lasted for so long with my caution serves as a sign that I am got some tactical nous, and I know how to handle myself in combat. And maybe just charging at things isn't the best answer every time. Her homeworld is Vespasian, a non-industrial tourist world. I think we've had it described as a paradise. Maybe that's maybe straight out of the brochure. That's a bit over the top. While beautiful, it was a bit dull for Fiora, providing a clear motivation for her seeking a more adventurous life. And she's achieved that with it. She's had quite a career. I'll specifically mention her UPP, which is quite outstanding. It's very high. Her high characteristic score suggests natural talent and competence, and that has been augmented during her training. She has had a lot more educational opportunities, but she's grasped it with both hands, and she has a lot of initiative and drive. Her service history, her special assignment in term 1, where she made a difference with logistical innovations, highlights intelligence and problem-solving skills. The Medal for Heroism in Term 3 speaks to bravery and decisive action. Avoiding a local terrorist altercation suggests a degree of awareness and perhaps even tactical thinking outside of formal combat. Her resignation with a desire to adventure is a clear driving force for her current path. So Fiora seems to have done everything on her terms. She has she's almost like achieved the pinnacle of her career, and have decided, right, enough's enough. I am going to head off and do my own thing. So she sounds like she is a strong, independent woman who really knows her own mind and wants to make a stamp in this Traveller universe. Her skills, as she shows, is a well-rounded skill set encompassing combat, leadership, and practical abilities. Her high skill levels in rifle, sword, and administration further emphasize her competence. So, in a summary, if you wanted a science fiction comparative to this type of character, maybe you could say it's like a Ripley. She embodies that kind of leadership ability and competence and coolness. And she's maybe got some weaknesses, and like Ripley had in the films, but she seems to more than make up for it with her courage and her cool, level-headed thinking, and ability just to deal with a crisis situation. And that sounds like what Fiora is, and that makes me think that she is our natural leader. And then, yes, we move on to Kira. There's always Kira. Kira Gaines, female, age 34, same age group as Fiora. Her service Navy with no rank achieved, which, in light of her service record, isn't that surprising. Okay, fair enough. Personality, cruel. This was directly attributed to her upbringing on Primax, and which provides some context for a challenging personality trait. You're telling me, cruel, it does sound pretty challenging to any civilized person. But she could, this is maybe the excuse to what the psychologist would say on a report. Our homeworld, Primax, a hell world with extremely hostile fauna and flora, including aphid-like insects that are milked, so that's the ones that they had in the farms, and a terrifying apex predator, the one that used to chop you in half with its mandible type, sharp claw type things. The loss of many relatives underscores the brutal environment she endured and how it hardened her. And her UPP, I just said her characteristics reflects a survivor with a strong will and reflexes. So that's kind of almost ingrained in her character through that she is a survivor. She'll just carry on with a kind of mindset to say, I need to, in any situation, she survives. Her service history, maybe not so good. The rejection from the Marines and forced drafting into the Navy suggests she might not have fit the typical military brief. Even though she dreamed of being a Marine, she thought the Marines were amazing, the ones that were on the planet. She was completely wowed with their fantastic white power combat armor and their their whole attitude to things. The addiction issues with drinking, unproven embezzlement charges, and disciplinary action for reckless piloting all point to a troubled but also daring individual. So there's always a silver lining with these things. Um, she is a bit of a troublemaker. She's a drinker. She may be a bit dodgy, but the silver lining is that she's daring. She really, maybe she just goes, really tries it. Anything, and nothing's too daunting for Kira. Leaving voluntary implies she took control of her situation, which is fair enough. Yep, even if it meant leaving the service without a good record. Okay, so she's almost said, well, that's the end of a chapter in my life. It fulfilled a purpose. I'm moving on to something new. Her skills, these offer a mix of technical and operational skills, suggesting she has some valuable abilities. Despite her disciplinary issues, her piloting skill, even with the apparent recklessness, could be a significant asset. Now, piloting is a great one for potential future development, because we're aiming to get a ship like any good traveller. That is one of our objectives. So, that being said, we have gone through all the characters. I've given you a bit of a resume of what these are. So we've now got down to this section, which says, let's roll for their personal reasons for being on the starting world. So this is where we actually start rolling some dice and having a bit of a play with the characters. So I will say, we will list our characters. We've got Saria, our merchant. We've got Bastian, our army man. We've got Fiora, another army colonel, and Kira, our navy crew member. So I have a little table here that says roll for personal reasons for being on the starting world. So the starting world being Taro. Why are they there? And I've got a few. I've got 6 options, so this will be a D6, and maybe I'll have some modifiers. So I can apply modifiers of plus or minus depending on the overall assessment of the character's service history and personality. So maybe just run through these first so you get an idea of how I would apply that. Number 1, discharge world from service happened to be this world. So they got discharged. It happened to be Taro. The wherever their term was that they were on, that was where they got discharged. Tourism brought the character to this planet, so maybe they had just a brief time where they decided, I'm going to be a bit of a tourist. I've heard that Taro is a nice place to visit. It's got all this lovely purple rock, these tall mountains, lovely hazy atmosphere. Just don't breathe the stuff. Maybe that was a draw. 3, wanting to embrace the traveler life and looking for like-minded individuals. So someone that is wanting to start a new life and thinking, all right, who can I, where could I go to get connected? 4, they've had a rumor of employment opportunities, which has lured the character here. So they've heard that the stuff on Taro that brought them here. They're in a temporary employment and using their skill set to get by. So maybe they have actually got a job on Taro, doing just some menial work, maybe with one of their skills. And it's just classified as temporary, just to kind of tick them over. And then maybe the last one, which is probably the fact that they've just been a bit of a drifter and they've just ended up here. So this is maybe if they say they've had a bit of maybe Saria would be more the kind of drifter type, that she's kind of left. She's been a bit despondent. She's thinking, and she's just been kind of bumming her way around this subsector, and she's just ended up here. So that might happen. So if I was going to apply modifiers, I would say the plus and the minus. Now, the plus would probably be if the character's got a bit of a poor service history or there has been issues. And the minus would be if the characters had an impeccable or very good service history, and maybe is quite a straightforward character. And apply nothing if you just don't feel that there's any need and you'd rather just do it. So maybe I don't. Maybe I just don't want to. I might say for say for let's say for Fiora, we'd have a -1 because she's not going to be a drifter. And maybe for Saria, we say we have a +1, because there is a chance that she could have been discharged from the service, but there's more likelihood that she might have ended up, or maybe let's not do anything and just have her having any of these and maybe having a chance of being a drifter. Okay, let's do that. I've convinced myself. I don't want to really apply, but I will apply a -1 modifier to Fiora's one because she's had quite a very strong service history, and she's probably proved to be the most stable, adjusted, and kind of in inverted commas normal character in our group. So we'll get our traveller dice out, and we'll find out what Saria, what the reason, why is she on Taro? We get, well, she's just had the discharge. It's been the discharge world. She's just happened to be, maybe the merchant vessel that she was with, the captain said, right, okay, hard times, I'm afraid, Saria. We are where we are. Yeah, we've ended up on Taro. It's got a lot of nice retro stuff. I'm sure you're going to enjoy yourself. Cheerio, and that was it. So she's been kind of left in Taro. That's her discharge world. Okay, so nothing special there. Bastian, let's see what's given him his reason. He's got a bit more of an aspirational one. He's wanting to embrace the traveller life and looking for like-minded individuals. So he really is keen on hooking up with people like these. So he's gone. So we'll put 1 there. We'll put 3. The traveller life. A traveller life for me. So that's probably one of the better ones to have. It's just he's got wide eyes. He's wanting to embrace this new chance in his life. He's not maybe resentful about the fact that he's been kind of pushed out the army with all these cuts. He's just saying, right, this is an opportunity for me. The glass is half full. I'm going to take it with both hands, and I think I just got to meet some people to hook up with, and we'll be off and running. So, and then we have Fiora, and we'll do a -1 on Fiora. So we have 4 -1 is 3, and she wants the traveller's life too. So, and she's got the very similar motivation, a traveller life. She's quite keen on that type of thing. So she wants to hook up with like-minded individuals, and she thinks that Taro is one of these places that has got opportunities. Stay at the Dragon Hotels. She's heard that this chain offers amazing networking opportunities. This is the right place to be. And then Kira, we'll have Kira. She just has a 1 to 6. We could sometimes give her a +1, but let's just give her a 1 to 6 and see what happens. She gets a 2. Also, she's got a tourism thing, so she's maybe just thought, I'm just going to take a bit of time out. I've been with the Navy. I've got some contacts. Maybe I can get some maybe paid service on ships and just hopping around. So she's been doing a bit of tourism, maybe visited 2 or 3 planets, and she's just ended up on Taro, and she thought, oh, this sounds like a nice place to go. I'll just go here. So that's why the characters are there. And then the next thing we do, the next stage, is we roll on the following table for the reasons the characters met and formed a group. So we've got the reasons why the characters came to Taro individually. We've got this discharge world, traveller's life for 2 of them, and just tourism. But what brought the characters together, and what is the reason for forming this group of a party? You know, the famous term party. And I thought that that's worthy of a table by itself. And I did the non-traveler thing and generated 8. So I'm going to have to use the 8-sided dice. I know it's sacrilege, but at least it's black. It could be red or black. You're allowed. I've got the traveler 8-sided dice to roll, and the options that I've come up with. I was just racking my brains, and I thought, well, maybe the first one would be shared circumstances. The characters being on the same world, they're all somewhat adrift, lacking immediate prospects or connections. Forming a group is a pragmatic way to pool resources, share information, and increase their chances of finding employment. So they've got the personal motivation why they're there, and maybe this just sort of gels them into a group because they just feel that we're here. What is there to do? Let's see if we can get together. You can do this, I can do this. Why don't we form a team? And then seeking opportunities, they have all arrived on this world with the hope of finding new opportunities to a lesser or greater extent. A group offers more leverage in seeking these opportunities than individuals acting alone. Good point. So that's reason number 2. And then reason number 3, complementary skills. They see in each other the makings of a well-rounded team, and recognizing this, they have banded together for mutual benefit, which is probably one of the major reasons a team would form. Discharge cohort, they're all part of a larger group discharged around the same time and naturally gravitated towards each other based on shared experiences of leaving their respective services. So maybe they're all been chatting about how they left, and they think, oh, well, that's a coincidence, you'd left at about the same time as me, blah, 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 blah. And they've just got together and thought, oh yeah, we've got a bit in common here. The chance encounter, they have met in the Dragon Hotel and found a common thread or a mutual need that has led them to form a loose alliance. Okay, so it's a bit more of a kind of casual type thing, and they just happen to be in the Dragon Hotel together, which is probably the natural place that they would gravitate to, and they've actually managed to meet in, say, in the lobby and stuff, and they've found, oh, we've got a bit in common. You're looking for this, I'm looking for this. Let's go together. A specific event, this might be a particular event on the starting world, a minor crisis, a shared injustice, or an opportunity that required a group effort. And this has brought them together initially. So maybe this is a bit more kind of, it has to be a bit more created and use a bit of imagination to say, maybe there's been like a car accident or something like that. Maybe their taxi, they're sharing a taxi or something, and something happened. Who knows? It's that you're just going to have to use a bit of imagination on that one. A need for belonging. Despite their different backgrounds, they're all feeling somewhat isolated after leaving their structured lives in the service, and seek a sense of camaraderie or purpose in a small group. So, to a greater and lesser extent, they're all going to maybe feel a wee bit dislocated from a service life, and maybe that has been a kind of pull to get the group together. And then a shared goal, they all harbour a similar desire to find a specific kind of opportunity, to escape the past, adopt a traveller path, and see a group as the best way to achieve this. Well, at least we know that two out of the 4 do definitely want to go for a traveller path. Maybe the other 2 have sort of shared, have a kind of goal as well in life to better themselves or see something new. I think for the characters, all we have to do is maybe just get that D8 and roll it and see, and this will be the reason why the characters have got together in the first place. So we'll get our Traveller Shaker and find out. So we have a 1, and trying to remember what 1 was. The reasons why the characters have formed. Shared circumstances. Being on the same world, i.e. tarot, they are all somewhat adrift, or lacking immediate, maybe probably more lacking immediate prospects or connections. So let's say they're lacking immediate prospects and they have no connections just now. So they have realized when they are being in the Dragon Hotel and all kind of interacting in the lobbies or the bar over a few nights, that forming a group is a pragmatic way to pool their resources, share information, and increase their chances of finding employment, which is the next stage. If you look at my little list, after we've had this little mini game, the setup in the Dragon Hotel is the search for patrons. So I've got quite a structured way that I do that. The Traveller Rules does have a structured way to do the search for patrons too, and I take that and maybe just embellish it a bit with a few extra tables just to kind of give it a kind of overall fleshing out how we have interactions with the law side, how we have interactions with the local residents, how we feed on rumors, how the patron is designed, and what the ensuing mission is. I've just kind of beefed it up a bit based on what the core rules were saying about it. Okay, right, so that's good. So we've done basically step one. Moving on to step two, the recap on the starting equipment and resources. Now, as I said, I'm not going to say very much about this just now, and I'm probably going to do this exercise offline and show you just the kind of end result of what I've decided that the characters are going to do. But I'll set out the overall kind of some of the overall aspects of this, of the economics of this situation, and just where this puts the characters in terms of their starting money and what they can afford and what they can achieve at this initial stage. So establish what the characters need and purchase items up to 50% of their available cash. So their available cash that we generated as part of the mustering out, I'm saying that we can spend up to 50% of their amounts, and this represents equipment and items purchased before they began adventuring. So this is like what they come to the party with. So I'm allowing them to spend 50%. They don't actually have to spend on tarot. They can have it already with them. That's maybe their luggage. Any personal belongings can be stored safely and without additional charge in the hotel's secure vaults and strong room facilities. And that was one of the advertised benefits of staying in the Dragon Hotel, that you can have lots and lots of personal belongings. We'll store them safely and free of charge in our vaults, in our secure vaults and strong rooms, so you don't have to worry. And then Dragon Hotel specifically, this provides credit to hard up travelers once they have signed the membership charter. So when our party arrive at the Dragon Hotel over the last few days, they come in maybe in drip kind of fashion, sporadically. The first thing that they have to do is sign the membership charter, which is a formal document, and it says this is binding until death. That sounds very dramatic, but basically, because they're being given a line of credit, any default on credit will be met with appropriate sanctions. So they basically sign up to what the Dragon Hotel is all about. As a permanent resident, you have privileges, but you also have obligations, and this is stating what the obligations are, and just as much as what all the privileges and listed services that you have. The Dragon Hotels charge 100 credits per night for standard quarters and full board. This covers all services. Characters who opt to pay for the gold option will pay 300 credits and have executive suites and personal assistants. So remember when I was going on about the rooms, you had a standard rooms, and you also had some suites, which were, so these suites cost 300. The standard rooms cost 100. The standard rooms are fantastic. They're very well maintained, very well turned out. They are immaculate. They're very, very hygienic, clean, very high quality. But the suites are just off the chart. You have a lot more room. You have this access to maybe um, private facilities, and also these personal assistants, which are either humans or robots. And probably more on the human side on Tarot, because robots aren't a big feature apart from the more decadent, the free, the free party, who would really like their robots, but they're becoming rather antiquated now because some of them are over 200 years old. But the Imperium uses robots in its, and Dragon Hotel does have its own robots. And the way that I've envisaged robots is that I think I mentioned before, AI was rejected by the Imperium many centuries ago. They just decided that's not the way to go. We don't want this autonomous kind of mind that's going to be superior to humans. What we'll do is we'll put limiters in our technology, and they had the power to do that because they had such a unified state. And they just realized this. A few strong emperors that they had just said, right, we're going to set the standard here and just stop any further development. And it became embodied, enshrined in their laws and their constitutions that AI would be an outlawed technology. It does obviously go on in certain areas of the universe, but this is like the psionics, who are also viewed as being outsiders to the Imperium. It's viewed as illegal technology. But going back to the robots, they had a very much of an emphasis on achieving autonomous robots that could do a limited amount of thinking, but weren't they didn't have like an independent view of themselves. So they weren't self-aware, but they were highly attuned to what human requirements would be in terms of fulfilling their domestic and also ultimately military purposes, because they are used as military, military and security equipment, as well as domestic. So there are a lot of robots about, maybe about say 10% of any sentient beings, up to about 10% robots in facilities around the streets of Tarot, and also on some of the other Imperium planets. They tend to be less. You maybe talking maybe 1 in 20, 1 in 50. You'll see, and they all have quite a distinct. I've kind of modelled them on. I used to play a game called The Sims a long time ago, which was like a simulation of like just having some, like real life really. Although the Sims one I used to play was really quite, had a lot of fantasy elements too, that you could do magic and that type of stuff, which was all a bit strange. And then there was this little thing called the Servo, which was a robot that you could do all your kind of domestic things, and it was and it used to like make funny little beepy noises, but it was terrific. It used to do everything. It used to do the ironing and the kind of washing, and make your meals and whatever. And unlike some of the other like iRobot, where the higher models, they either take over the world or shoot you. These robots were terrific because all they did was like make you a nice cup of tea, and they were very pleasant, and they did lots of nice things to help you. So that's kind of the level that the Imperium's robots are like. The more kind of brutal ones, the ones that are used in military purposes, they have different protocols, and they are very restricted to the army and the Marines, and I suppose the Navy as well. They use them on a very limited basis, and you'll never see them in the civilian capacity on planets, or very rarely will you do that. So there are robots in the Dragon Hotel, and they are milling about with some of the customers and the residents, but they're not a major feature. And you will get, as part of this gold service, you will get access to one of them, who would be very nice, a little servo. And they've all got funny names, because I decided, well, what could I call them? But to give them a bit of distinctiveness. And I thought, let's have, my naming convention is that I'll use every letter of the alphabet, A to Z, but I will have a suffix at the end called Rax. So I could have Arax, and I could have Drax, and then you'd have a number like 10. So Arax 10 is and then you could have Zrax, maybe not Zrax, Elrax, Elrax, that type of thing, and then you just have a number like 12. So that's the convention. So whenever you get introduced to a robot, they'll always say, I am Drax 15, that type of thing. Oh, by the way, I thought, just to give a bit of colour, now on the way the individuals come over in this world, in the my Traveller universe, I thought, just to envision it, I'm going to go maybe down the classic, almost like the Star Wars type route, and I'm going to have the Imperium and anybody that is associated with the Imperium speaking probably in quite almost like an English accent, quite neutral. Part of their imperial conditioning, I remember I mentioned this before, the imperial conditioning is their mass education program. They are very keen on getting everybody speaking in a very similar way, and almost like a bit like what we used to do in Britain, or as part of our way of public speaking. You had what was called British Pathy, which was the way our newsreaders used to speak, and we have it. We call it BBC Speak now. So everybody on the BBC are supposed to speak in this kind of take away their regional accents and almost have a kind of quite a neutral, quite a not upper class, but quite a very middle of the road, kind of middle class kind of way of speaking. That's what the Imperium's all about. They really like that type of thing. So they're trying to get everybody to try and speak the same way. So basically anybody on the Imperium side, a lot of people in the Starport, they speak with an English accent. And then anybody from on the planet side, across the Imperium, they're going to have your classic Han Solo, Anakin Skywalker. They're going to have quite a strong North American accent as being their distinctive. And then obviously there might be other regional accents too. Might have the concierge having a slight French accent. But as a general kind of divide, just the way you're imagining it, you've got your. And I think with Star Wars, they always had the Empire as being very English, and they spoke in this way. And I think there's a Hollywood kind of trope that the English accent is always like the villain, and they make very good villains the way they talk. They're not everybody in this on the Imperium side are going to be villains. They're going to be, but they're just going to speak in that kind of quite smooth, pleasant English accent that hasn't got any regional bias in it at all. I've completely gone off the tangent. I've been talking about all this type of stuff. Right, let's get back to this type of thing. I've gone way past my time, because I was going to start launching it into the next stage. What I'll do is I'll give you a heads up on what I'm going to do. So stage 3 is the setup in the Dragon Hotel, and I'll just give you a heads up on that, and then we can crack into that in the next episode, and really start getting open under the bonnet of what Traveller's all about. So the setup in the Dragon Hotel. The characters will have their introduction to the Traveller universe by experiencing an evening in the Dragon Hotel. This involved running through a few generated encounters called situations and playing out the interaction using the reaction mechanic. So I will have stage 1. I will set the scene. I will describe the lobby and the bar area. I will talk about its quiet elegance and the professional demeanour of staff. So I will set that up and I will talk about that, so you feel like you're in the mood, you're listening to the music, it's very pleasant, it's elegant, it's refined. You're just feeling quite relaxed. Maybe you've had a nice meal in the restaurant, you're just relaxing. I will have the player characters interact with the concierge. He will explain the hotel's code and charter and answer any questions. So if the characters have any questions at that stage, they can ask them. And they tend to be things like, where can we find a job? Where can we find a patron? And concierge might be able to help them in that score. We will enter the bar and interact with the bartender. Now, the bartender is always a good one to interact with, and he will be a character that we can always come back to, and maybe have a confidential chat to the bartender. We'll establish a relationship with the reaction test to determine his helpfulness and willingness to facilitate the situations. So that will be a little use of my reaction test mechanic, which is based on the Traveller one. We'll see in action. And then I'm not going to go into this in complete detail, but I'll just say stage 4 will proceed through the evening with some staggered encounters using the matrix to generate situations, and for each guest or resident, introduce a quirk and personality. And then also I'll have a trigger that will initiate the encounter. I'll resolve the interaction and play them through using, I have what we call my secondary reaction test table to determine outcomes. And then I will have a limit. I will say after 2 situations, I will roll for another one, and this will start reducing thereafter. So that we don't have endless encounters. It might just stop. And then at the end of it, we should have the characters. They should have obtained information, established relationships, build their reputation with the hotel staff and other guests, and it will also introduce them to the feel of the Dragon Hotel and prime them for seeking a patron and exploring the planet. So the idea of this is it kind of just gently breaks the characters in. If you were a solo role player and you're just starting on your journey, this is probably a nice little simple mini game that you can play. I did the same for my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I had my characters have an evening in the Green Dragon Inn, where there was a chance that they would interact with some of the people there that we had pre-generated, and then based on how the reactions went, we would gauge whether they were successful in their interactions or not. And as a spin-off, I generated quite a lot of nice little NPCs, and I had this stuff. It was almost like the catalyst to get the game going, and we get to understand our own player characters, and we get to understand start to understand the game world round about us. So it's little tiny steps that will end in great big leaps. Okay, I know I went into the bit of theory. The next one, we will start straight at the chase. We will be setting the scene. You'll be introduced to the concierge. He's an impeccable, well-mannered chap. He will give us a lowdown. We'll be chatting away to the bartender. We will have a few encounters with residents. Who knows what they are? I've got loads of tables to try and describe what the personality's like, why they're there, why we've bumped into them, that type of thing. It should be a bit of fun. Okay, right. Let's cut it now, and we'll focus on that next time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.